Welcome to the Emo Social Club podcast, the podcast about music news and interviews. I am Brian.
And I'm Lizzie, and we're here today with our new friend, Mikala of yours truly. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, yeah. Tell us a little bit about you and the band and yours truly and all that.
Where do I begin? We are from Sydney, Australia. That's where I am right now. There's three of us, so I'm Mikala, I sing, Teddy is our guitarist, and Henry is our drummer. We've been a band for around, I think, 8 years now, 9 years, which is really weird to say that. But we're just about to release our second album called Toxic, and I think that, we're just excited to be doing what we do.
I think originally I heard from you, I heard about yours truly, I think from your suggestion.
Probably.
We did, during the pandemic, we did some like DJ streams, like emo night streams, but on Twitch. So we had a lot of like people coming through and all that. And we're always looking for bands, from not the US, like just bands that are doing stuff from all over the world. B, bands that have a woman, in the vocal position that are doing it, because there are so few, and especially like in the emo scene. So, I mean, I'm not surprised you've been around for 8 years, because I'm like, we heard about you like a few years ago, and I'm like, damn, they're just hearing about this band. They've been around for so long to me, like now that we're, 4 or 5 years from then, I guess.
Yeah, it's been a while. COVID was the time that I felt like we started to get any kind of recognition, and it was a lot for the reasons that you say. I think that was during a time where people were finally like, oh, we need to give women a voice, we need to push them to the front. And I guess that I think that was around that time. So we had a song called High Hopes, and we put it out and it did really, really well. I mean, this was all before COVID, but I guess that not too long before COVID, I guess we finished our first album. We released our first album during the pandemic. So, that I guess it has been a long time since that.
That time suck of COVID, I guess, it doesn't count, but it does count. Like, we grew a lot in a few years, but it was like,
but we missed
where did
out
it
on
go?
a lot.
Yeah, I always think that. I'm like, I lost like half of my 20s to COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you reference like, oh, this was like, I listened to this, like maybe say, for example, you said, oh, I listened to this like, 3 years ago. And it's like, oh no, that was 7, because I lost all that time and I can't fathom it even still.
Crazy.
And I want to add one more thing about like female fronted bands, and also mention that like it does seem like there's a lot that come out of Australia in general, because we've been like re-listening a lot to like Tonight Alive, because they're reuniting. Stan Atlantic is a band that we've loved for a long time, and so it's like there seems like a lot more bands from Australia that have women in the front person role. Like, why? And why can't everybody else do it? Because it's awesome.
I'm not too sure why, to be honest. I think that I guess, I think having someone like Jenna, who did it when no one else was really doing it. Like, I think I guess there are a lot of bands that have women fronting them, but I guess that like Tonight Alive was the band that took off in that generation of bands, and I think that from her being from Sydney and being from Australia, and I think that, and also them playing locally so much as they did in the beginning of their career, I think that it gave, people like myself and maybe Bonnie, and like, if you look at, other bands, like you've got like Emmy from Red Hook, and you've got Caitlin from Eat Your Heart Out, and we all come from like a very similar bubble of Australia, like in the same kind of geographical area, like New South Wales, and I think that having someone like Jenna like doing it like maybe gave us the idea that, oh, very possible to do, being able to see it with our own eyes.
Representation matters, I guess.
There you go, Ryan.
Yeah.
Now, We see you kind of moving in a different direction now from your kind of more pop punk predecessor and your roots a little bit more with your new single Sour and overall with your upcoming album Toxic as well. So can you kind of like talk a little bit about what caused that shift to change a little bit more and go into like a little bit more of like a darker theming?
I think there's a lot of different aspects and a lot of different reasons why we decided to do something different. I think the first one is, the simplest to explain, but, we've been playing pop punk for a long time. I think a lot of bands kind of get to a point where they've tried all the things that they wanted to try and they were the band that they wanted to be. And, like I find that, our album Self Care was the best pop punk album that we as yours truly could have made. Same with Afterglow and Is This What I Look Like was the first departure, away from that style that we're playing. I would say that it's still pop punk, but it's not the same style. I guess it's a little bit darker, a little bit faster. And I always try to think that once we've created something, like there's no point of us trying to recreate that because I feel like that was who we were at that time. I think that now we have just decided that, that's something from the past and we just need to keep evolving, keep moving on. Also, another reason, I guess, would be that we've gone through a lot of stuff. Like, it's been a very challenging couple of years. The band has gone through a lot. The band almost didn't even make it to this album, truthfully. And I think you can hear the anger and, like, the sadness and the, like, almost the resentment like in the music of like all the hard shit that we went through. But yeah, so I think that it's just kind of showing that the band isn't the same band that it was when we started. We've gone through a lot, we've learned a lot, we've grown a lot, and this is just who we are today. And I think that that's a really cool, it's almost like a journal kind of thing where you see like all the things that you've learned. But I guess sometimes like, maybe the way that you talk changes.
Yeah, I definitely think like there's a shift in genre now for sure with a lot of like, I mean, I think the world going through hardship, but also like a sort of like people want more heavy music. It feels like there is a drive towards more heavy and darker themes, and I don't know if it's just like the world is getting darker and heavier, or if it's like there is just these like underground rock scenes that are finally getting like their due credit for making really good music. And I don't know, I think that genre has kind of become a word that it's like you don't have to do one thing, you can just be a band and make the music that you make as the band. And when you go and you play a live show, it's like, yeah, we have like our older pop punk songs, but if I play this new song that comes out, it's still the same vibe in the show as it would be if we just made another pop punk record. It's like whatever the band makes is going to sound like the band. And so you don't have to describe yourself as pop punk anymore, I guess.
Totally. That's exactly how we feel. Like, it's always going to sound like yours truly. The songs are written by us. They just don't sound like the last album. And I think that kind of makes it exciting because I don't really think that people want to hear, I mean, they might, but like, I don't want to hear the same album over and over again by the bands that I like. Like, I want to hear, the things that they're interested in now and the direction that they want to go in, because I know that they'll feel way more passionate about playing those songs because it's something new and fresh for them.
I'm listening to this podcast about Pearl Jam right now, and Pearl Jam, a band, 30 years of their career, almost 40, I guess. And they're like saying on the podcast, like, there just comes a point where a band just isn't going to write a good album anymore. Like, they just can't write good records. And there's like a shift that happens when you're a band for 20 years or something like that, and you just can't write another good one. And I'm like, that's gotta not be true. That, like, yes, these bands from the 90s that kind of just have the same members for 40 years are going to write like kind of the same sounding thing. But it's like Pearl Jam's not going to go in the studio and write a pop punk record or write a pop record or something. But they could, and maybe that would be interesting. And maybe they would write something really interesting if they expanded what their genre was. And I'm like trying to think of like, how does a band last for 20 years and not make a bad record? And the only band I'm like that's coming to my brain, and people may disagree, is Bring Me the Horizon. that has been changing their genre all the time, and I still like what they make. People don't like this new one, but I'm like, you're wrong. It's really good.
I think that a good point of like what you made was something about the members always being the same. I think that something that we've done with this record, and this isn't me saying that like, oh, like this is the right thing, this is what makes your album good, but I think a way to sometimes keep things moving is collaboration. And I think that that's, a band like Bring Me the Horizon, like they do that. Like they've got so many features on their records, and I know that they were, that they, in like they've had people come in and they've had like, I know in the last record, like I don't know what happened with the member situation. I'm not really educated on that yet. It's
Yeah,
been
me
it's been
neither.
a hectic time. I haven't read all the statistics.
You're like, I'm
I'm
not
like,
up on the hot goss.
Yeah.
I'm not going to speak on it because I don't know about it. But they are a band that has constantly taken risks and tried new things, collaborated with other artists, and that's why they're still creating music that's exciting to other people, because they have been open to that, which I think is really cool, and I think that more bands should do that. And that's exactly what we did on our record. Like I said, I don't want to write the same record twice, and that just meant that we would have to write with other people and learn new things and take inspiration from other people instead of just listening to other bands or other artists and trying to take inspiration from other people's already created art. Like, let's create art with other people.
Yeah, there's definitely been a schism, I feel, especially in like hard and active rock and in like alt and pop punk, especially. There was like that one time last year where I feel like every single bigger like hard and active rock band put out like the same song over and over. And I'm like, oh, it's this band. Or like, no, it's this band. I'm like, that's so crazy because I feel like I just heard the same exact song over and over. And I think being able to go out of that box there really helps. I think it also just diversifies the sound and gets a lot of audiences much more acclimated to these newer, innovative sounds rather than things that are just kind of same old, and then you lose those potential listeners.
Definitely.
Now, with that in mind, too, do you have any collabs that you did on this upcoming album that you have coming out on the 16th of August?
Yes, a lot actually. Like, only one of them is like a feature, I guess. We have Jono from a band called Bloom is on our song called Sinking. He is like a screaming vocalist and I can't scream, so, and he's a friend of mine. I was like, this song needs some aggression. Do you want to do it? He was like, yeah. So yeah, I sent him the song and then he wrote his own part, and yeah, and then came in and did it. But the album has a lot of collaboration, like in that you wouldn't really, I guess, like know when you listen to it. A lot of co-writing, and I also worked a lot with Sam from Ocean Grove. He produced the album, so there's a lot of influence from him on this record, where he would change things in demos and like, yeah, really bring that like super visceral like sound that Ocean Grove have into this record, which I've always really admired about them. But yeah, there's a lot, like most of the songs on the record were co-written with like another producer or another artist or another writer, just because it was like, it was something that I kind of felt that we needed to do to move forward in our career and make something different.
How do you go about like deciding who you want to work with in that way, like production or writing or something like that? Like, is it just like, hey, I know you and I really like your stuff and I'd love to work with you, or is it like I really want to reach out to this person because I want their mind in the studio with me, and I want to meld with them in that way and get to know how they tick and how they write music, so that I can steal. As somebody once said, I want to steal all their ideas and take them for myself, and I have to get them in the room and like kind of pull it out of them.
Most people were friends, and they're people that like we just talk all the time. So it was like, hey, like we should do this kind of thing. But I think a really exciting one was that I got to write Call My Name with Dan Braunstein. And I I knew who he was, and obviously like really admire his work. We were on tour with Fit for a King, and I remember I was talking to Tuck and telling him a lot about like how where we were at, and how like I really wanted to like learn from other people, and I really wanted to work with other people. And then he brought up Dan, and he was like, let me see like what I like if I can talk to someone about it. And so it's always these things of like you meet people, and then like you talk about things, and then someone knows someone, and yeah, and so that was a really exciting door that then opened, and I got to work with him, and then he ended up mixing our whole record. So yeah, sometimes these things just happen.
Just in the room together, and you're like, hey, we got this thing that we're working on right now, please come and listen to it.
Yeah, like I guess that like I like showed him the demos that like I already had, which actually didn't make the album. So like I guess like, yeah, but and then it kind of like went from there.
Nice. So I think also talking about how you just kind of work with other people and you're trying to like evolve and differentiate your sound. You also did vocals on the Bayonetta 3 gaming soundtrack. How I couldn't find much about this, but I'm interested to see how this all came about for you.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember how it even happened because it like honestly happened so long ago. Like I'm like I still remember being asked by my manager if I knew like what the game series was. And I was like, yeah. Like I grew up like loving games. Like I never like played Bayonetta like previously to singing on the game, but like I knew what it was. And yeah, so yeah, I remember like my manager was like, do you wanna like try to this thing, like you just have to like I think I had to like cut a demo for it, and then I did, and then I ended up getting the job, which was really cool. And then I had to do like this like 6 hour Zoom call with people from like the writers of the song in LA, and then like the actual team in Japan, and like it was just
Wow.
this like
That's crazy.
yeah, there was like people that like, I guess some of them didn't know how to speak English, and then they had a translator, and then I'm like singing this song, like tracking it like line by line for them. And then I'm having them like give me feedback like from like I'm thinking like it was like 8 people giving me feedback like watching me record a song, which has never happened to me in my
Yeah.
life before.
That's ooh.
But it was actually so fun, and I would love to do some of that again. Like, and even just hearing, hearing like my voice in the game was like so cool.
So did you play the game to like hear where you were in it?
Yeah.
Like I gotta
I
jump
went,
in.
I went to the shop, and I was like, I'm gonna buy this game. Like, 'cause I was like, it was really exciting. And I remember I was with my friend. We're actually in the States. I think we're in the States when it came out. And we went into a shop, and then one of my friends that we were on tour with was like, have you played this game? And the guy was like, yeah, like I loved it. And he's like, like the song that happens when like Viola plays? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, that's her. And the guy was like, really? And I was like, what? How did you do that? Like right now to me.
I and like obviously I imagine that moment being very embarrassing. You kind of have to do it. Like I think if
Like
no one
that's
was
a
with
big
you,
flex.
you would have had to be that person who goes up to them and says, "Yeah, I actually am in this game." Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm actually in this game.
I'm
Like,
actually in
thanks.
this.
I'll buy it. I did work on it. Like,
Yeah.
It's like,
it
hey,
is.
you want to meet a real celebrity right now?
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm in a game shop. Like, it's got to be celebrity status, right?
I think so. I as somebody who plays a lot of video games, but like tends to kind of go back to like the old ones personally. Like, I think if I was to meet a voice actor, somebody who did something for that game, like now, I would absolutely be like, I'm freaking out. Like, let me ask you a bunch of questions. Let me talk to you about all this stuff. I don't know if I would ever get a job at a store like that and then also freak out, but maybe, I don't know, maybe they would.
The guy, he didn't freak. He was more just like, cool. Like, that's pretty sick. Like, what are you doing in, I think we were in like Greensboro or something like that. He's like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Like, it's obviously I have an Australian accent, so I think he was very confused.
Yeah.
You're like, wow,
But,
crazy, buddy. But you know that singing, I also do it
Yeah.
professionally.
Yeah.
That's why they hired me.
Yep. That it feels like I've been in the studio like recording vocals with like the rest of my band there, and sometimes I'd be like, they'd like give me feedback, and I'm like, guys, no, don't worry about it. Like, I'll do another take. Like, we got this, but we got time to like work through it. But having like a 6-hour call with people, like a like full on like a group of people who is just like, the game cannot come out unless this song is perfect. So we are going to sit with you and go line by line to make sure it's good. Is like, that sounds like the most harrowing thing for a singer.
It was a good challenge.
Like how, I mean, like even like at a show when you're like in front of people, you're like, I'm going to sing this, and if I fuck it up, it doesn't really matter. Like, they're fine with
And then
it.
it ends up on YouTube.
Yeah.
It ends up on YouTube then, and then people watch it and they comment, she's really shit live. And I was like, you just picked the worst show. I was sick.
Yeah.
And you picked the last song in the set, and you're watching this video and you're like, she's not that good live.
And it's like, buddy, you do that on stage while you're sick and you've done all this and you're moving around.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't.
Even like it's about the energy at the show. Like, if every note is not perfect, it's fine. The energy's there. Like, it's the crowd, it's the people around you. Like, I know a game is basically like, we're making this, it's coming out forever, it lives like this. Isn't the same way an album is. Like, you're gonna make the most perfect encapsulation of what you wanted to create at that moment in the studio so that it can be listened to. And you go to the show and you're like, yeah, they may not have hit every note, but we were jumping around and moshing and like throwing our hands up in the air saying yeah. So like that's way better than like if you're like hitting every note and the person on YouTube just like, well, I wasn't there, so I didn't have the energy, and I just listened to this and I don't like it.
Yeah.
You're opening for Enter Shikari and Yumi at 6, which I believe will be the final Yumi at 6 tour in the United States. And you'll be there too.
I know. Isn't it wild?
I believe we booked this interview before this tour was announced. Yeah. So I was like, wait a minute, we're talking to a celebrity. I'm much like in the way they were at the game store. I'm like, we're talking to a celebrity. They're going on tour with like 2 amazing bands. I'm like, are we sure they want to talk to us?
I have like massive, like, I'm going to fangirl throughout the whole tour. I've been like the hugest fan of Yumi at 6 for like a very long time. They were like my be or end all band like when I was in high school. Like, I ran a blog about them.
Wow.
I was like, so this is proper like exciting. And to be fair, like, this is the third tour we'll get to do. I mean, third, really second, but we've worked with Yumi at 6 a couple of times now. And I also think that's partially because I know how much of a fan I am, and they're just really nice guys.
Yeah.
Like, literally, they're actually like, some people say like, don't meet your heroes, but like, I met Yumi at 6 and I don't regret it like at all. They're all so lovely and they're so supportive of our band. And yeah, so this is like, I'm not going to this tour like not having met them, but I'm still excited about it. But I haven't really worked with Shikari before, so that'll be really cool.
And I'm assuming the way that yours truly is on this tour as well is because you're friends with Yumi at 6, and so it felt, I'm assuming it felt very nice for them also to have you out on that last run in the US as well. Yeah,
I think I haven't been told exactly that it is because of them, but I did get a very cryptic, haha, see you on tour message. Like, oh. So like, I 99% very sure that it was Yumi at 6. But I think I feel very honored that that we're gonna get to do that last American tour with them. Like, it's gonna be the longest one of all of their last tours, and especially someone that has been such a hardcore Yumi at 6 fan. Like, they are the reason why, honestly, they are the reason why I wanted to start a band. And I got to, actually, this is the thing, we got to play their 10 years, I think it was 10 years of Sinners Never Sleep. They did like a couple of shows in the UK, and we got to play those like very last minute. But, you know, they still thought of us and asked us. And now I'm going to get to, and that was like my favorite record, but now I'm going to get to do their last ever American tour. And if I would have like told myself like back in the day, like when I was like running my little blog, that I was gonna get to be a part of all those experiences, like I would have lost my shit. So I feel very, very honored that that they chose us, like to, I don't know, almost also like just the care that they've given us, that we've gone through a lot. And if I ever like was going through something that like I needed some advice, like Josh was always a text away for me to ask him like, what should I do here? And I just couldn't be more grateful.
So you can ask them to just get their number and just text them and hang out as a fan.
I'm like, yeah, I can ask some things about what I should do, but like I'm gonna just see if I can push the envelope and ask them something very personal.
Yeah, you could just send them like those. I don't know if you've ever seen like these TikTok challenges, but it's like I'm gonna like text my friend, my partner, my parents something absolutely like erroneous, and you're like, oh, what happens if then? And then you like record what they say, and I'm like, you could just do that with you and me.
Yeah.
So why is it over? ...
Or just be like, I heard some tea about why it's ending, and then just don't respond.
See what they say.
Distress, and then they're just like, what, where, why?
Yeah.
Be like, what tea?
I was gonna make another joke. No, I don't want to, because now I said I'm making a joke. Oh, I guess that like as the blogger who like is a massive fan, though, you have like the credit of saying like, not only was I a huge fan, but I am spending like a long time on their final tour. No one will have seen as many shows as such a massive fan as you have on their like final run. So like you get to have like this like, how do I celebrate this band and their existence and how that's they've done for me? Well, I'm gonna hang out with them for like 30 days.
Yeah, 100%. Like I'm literally gonna be a part of the band ending. Unreal.
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah.
just like simply poetic. It's
Right.
like you get to a point in your life in like what you do, your career, if it's in this music industry, and you start to work with the people that you're always like, oh my God, like I followed you guys and I was on like Tumblr and everything. And then you're like, oh wait, now you're right there. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Seeing him every night.
I think that out of everyone that I've met, I definitely think that one was like the scariest for me. So I'm glad that I don't really feel like that anymore, because it would have been really, really awkward.
Yeah. I mean, you get used to it in 30 days, right? Like
It'll wear off eventually.
Yeah.
I think that like they just made us feel extremely comfortable being around them. Yeah.
Well, our first question that I'll ask you is, what is the most emo song you are listening to right now? Doesn't have to be
Probably-
emo genre either. I should add.
The new Lizzie McAlpine album. I know it's not a song, but like she's just so emo without being emo.
She's always been very adjacently so. So when people are like, oh, I'm listening to her, I'm like, damn, are you all right, homie?
Yeah. Everything is like so sad. And it's like, I feel like that feeds like the emo inside of me, is that like it's not like rock music, but it still makes me sad.
I think there's a lot of kids that grew up on emo music and having like your heart on your sleeve and being so dramatic, and then they wrote other genres while doing that same thing. So it all
Yes,
tracks.
100%.
I'm like, all these kids getting into all these bands now, and I'm like, this is the saddest shit I've ever heard. It's like, yeah, well, you weren't there for Eyeliner and My Chemical Romance when I was in high school.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
All right. What was the inspiration for Sour?
Sour is about burnout, and we had come off our last US tour, and we had to start writing the next record, and we were so burnt out, we just didn't want to do anything. Like at that point in time, like, we had no like inspiration flowing, and we felt sour about it. And so we wrote a song about feeling burnt out and tired and having to do things that we didn't feel ready for. And that's what Sour's about.
How have you dealt with that since then? Not that I need help or anything in my own personal life,
Oh
but
my God.
how have you experienced
What's
that?
the
and what
what's
have you
the
done?
Mikaila Delgado's self-care routine
Yeah,
to
yeah.
help with burnout?
So I guess we really pushed ourselves to keep going. I do feel like once you get over the hurdle, and also feeling like I had such a writer's block, like having a song like Sour come to light during an experience like that was like a bit of like the light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing, of being like, oh, like we're gonna be okay, like we're gonna be able to get through this. But honestly, like sometimes saying that you need a break is fine. I feel like we have this mentality, I think especially since like kind of everything going back to normal, where like you just want to do everything like all at once. Like everything needs to get done. Like you need to move forward because we missed out on all this shit. And I don't know about you guys, but I felt us as a collective, like yours truly, like Teddy and I and Henry now, like just pushing ourselves as much as we could, doing everything, taking every tour that we got, like doing everything that everyone told us to do, and then wondering why we were like exhausted and emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that one day we just said no to something. Like, we're not going to do that. And then it was like, oh, that felt good. Because, you know, we, as much as we love it, and, you know, we love this band, and like I love this record, and I love that it exists. Sometimes it's hard when, like, you know, you've got responsibilities to other people, and all of a sudden you're you've got a lot of people telling you like what you should and what you shouldn't do, and you've got these opinions. So I think sometimes just like sticking to your gut feeling and being like, no, this is my life, and like, you know, for me it's my band, like for you guys, like your podcast, like it's like all the things that you do. I think sometimes just saying no is a really good way to like help yourself stop being so burnt out, and it's such a hard word to say.
Mm-hmm. I have gotten very good at saying no.
I'm still
but
working
also,
on
yeah,
saying
it's
no
not
a lot.
easy.
That's a new one for me too.
And I think
It's hard.
It's like balancing, like, here's all the things that I love doing, here's all the passions I have, here's the thing that brings me like the most fulfillment in my life. But like I still have to like vacuum. I still have to do laundry. I still have to do the dishes. And you're like, I'm supposed to do all that, but I'm like in this band and like people think I'm cool and I got to go on these tours. And it's like, dude, at some point you're like, I can't do that. I got to do the dishes. Like I'm busy. I can't help you with this thing that I'm like known for. Like I got to cook dinner and I'm having a friend over and I'm chilling out and then I'm going to do the dishes and I'm taking care of myself in that way.
That's the thing, is if you don't do the dishes, then you look in your kitchen every day and the dishes aren't done, and then you start feeling like shit.
Yeah.
Like it's like, you know, like my laundry piles up and I'm like, oh, I've got to wake up, I've got to go do this, I've got to go do that. I mean, that's life. Like everyone, like everyone experiences that. But I think sometimes, yeah, like when you're gone on tour for like a really long time and then you come home and then you're scrambling because, like, you know, going to America is not a cheap exercise for an Australian band.
Mm-hmm.
So you come home from tour and you're like, I've got to work, but I've also still got to do all this other stuff for my band. And then you're like, and I've also got to do my washing and then the dishes and keep, you know, see all the people that have been missing me while I've been gone. But yeah, like I guess like for Sour, for us, it wasn't really exactly that. It was more like the fact that we were so exhausted and we had gone through like a really challenging time for the band where, like, you know, we lost members and you know, we hadn't been home for like 6 months, and then like 2 weeks into being home, it's like, write the next album.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need like another week.
You're like, let me rot for a week and then we can circle back.
I just want to rot. I love to rot. Like I love to just lay in my bed for like a couple of days and like play The Sims and like not do anything.
Yeah.
Oh, are you Sims 4 girly too?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Very much so. I've been playing that game like intensely since I was like 13.
Yeah.
So and like I watch like 3-hour lore videos on YouTube. It's like my favorite thing to eat my dinner to. And yeah.
If you're on Sims Talk, I follow a couple of people and they'll just have like the most outrageous Sims storylines, and it'll just be cut up and it'll either be like different challenges or it'll be them being like, oh, this is my rags to riches story. And it's just like, my Sims lives with a half of a wall and a bed and a cot, and then they're gonna farmstead. And I'm like, cool, I'm so down to watch the series.
so creative.
I look. I don't watch that.
I
but
think you need to get
I
into The
can't.
Sims, Brian.
I can't talk anything because I watch a lot of other stuff, and so I'm happy for everyone. I'm just like, yeah, that
I
sounds
think just
sounds
the-
crazy. And then I'm like, don't look at my YouTube
The
history. I've
next
definitely watched
wave
something that dumb.
of Sims videos we need to come back is Sims AMVs that were originally made during Sims 2, and it was just like over songs. That's how I found a lot of views. Like,
That was how I found a lot of bands as well, was like
see?
either the bands that were on like the radio, like in the game, or like some bands had like ads, like where or like the trailers for like the expansion packs would come out, and I'd be like, what is this song? It was in like Simish or something, but I'd be like, I'd find the real life version. I'd be like, oh, cool band. And that would be a band that was very prominent in the scene already, but like I just had no idea about.
Yeah. All right, we can bring him back.
Let's bring them back.
Yours truly, AMV, coming soon.
I just want to do it. Like my goal is to have a song in Simlish, like to have it on
That
the
would be
radio.
so hard. I seen a couple ones like in the past of like they had to teach everyone to learn Simlish
Yeah.
to sing it. I just think it's so crazy. Like to know Haley Williams knows Simlish.
Yeah. Katy
Yeah.
Perry, Gerard Way. They all did it.
It's unreal.
All right. Third question. What is the music scene like in Sydney?
It's really good. I think it's starting to change a little bit. I think that it's getting a little bit heavier. I think hardcore is really taking off here right now, but also hyperpop is really taking off here as well.
Interesting.
Awesome.
So it's a yeah, you're two
Yeah.
wolves inside of you.
So real.
Yeah.
So I would say pop punk maybe isn't as strong as what it was. I am kind of slack in saying that I don't think that I'm as involved in the local scene as what we used to be. So I don't really know a lot of what's going on there, just because I guess I'm gone so much that I kind of, yeah, I don't really go to as many local shows as I used to, but I should start going. But yeah, no, it's but I'd always say that it's a very supportive scene, but it's also, we've had a lot of success come out of Sydney, so I think that we're doing something right.
Yeah. We've had,
Yeah.
I think this is our, well, I would say you're our third Australian band, but I think because we did Between You and Me twice.
Yeah.
So technically you're only our second Australian band we've ever had on the podcast. We just talked to Between You and Me twice, so I guess that doesn't really count.
Yeah, no.
No. Fuck 'em. Are they from the other side of the country? I forget if they're from Sydney or if they're from the other side.
They're from Melbourne,
Yeah.
but Jake, like the vocalist who I'm sure that you probably spoke to.
Yeah. Him and Maddie we
Like,
talked to a lot.
Oh, cool. And
Yeah.
Jake lives near me, so we're all Sydney peoples.
Yeah.
Well, he is now. He wasn't, but he is now.
Oh, I like that. You're like,
Should we start
was.
rivalry? Should we start beef between the two cities if there wasn't already?
It already is.
Oh,
you don't
okay.
You don't have to
Good.
begin anything. People from Sydney love Melbourne. People from Melbourne hate Sydney.
Oh my God. Okay.
Huh.
That's the beef.
What's the deciding
Yeah.
factor of hatred here?
Melbourne, like Melbourneites just hate anything that isn't Melbourne. Like
Oh,
they're
okay.
just like, Melbourne is the best city. Like everything else sucks. And I think because Sydney is seen as like the big city and like the city that like the tourists want to go to, and like it has like the harbour and all that. Like it's just like, like fuck Sydney. Like they think they're so good. Whereas we're in Sydney and we're like, we are good, but like you're cool too, Melbourne. And they don't like that we're like the easygoing like.
I mean, listen, I'm pretty sure Sydney was featured in the Finding Nemo movie, if I'm not wrong. So I just think that's
That's
cool.
that's what makes them cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I think Melbourne is like listed as like a more livable city than Sydney, like in like the world. I don't know what that list is now. So I'm like, I get why they think that. I personally love Melbourne. Like I would live there. But they're just haters. And I just don't know if I could live in an area of a bunch of haters.
That's fair.
From the way you're describing it, unfortunately, it sounds a lot like Chicago is Melbourne, but and like LA is Sydney or New York is Sydney, because Chicago is kind of like the if you've heard like the term second city, it's like we're not New York, and New York has like everything, but then like Chicago is kind of like the little sibling to New York, and so we're just like really like fuck you New York, fuck you for all your good shit. We're in Chicago and we're just like always getting like your hand me downs and never get anything, and we hate you. And they're like, no, your city's great, we love it there. And it's like, get out of here, don't compliment me.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
But also, like, the other thing about Chicago is we love everything that's from Chicago. Like, if you just say it's from Chicago, we're like, I love that. That's
We
for
literally
me.
were at a street fest last weekend, and we were watching some of our friends play the street fest who are local. And then I just walk up and they're like, yeah, I love Chicago. I'm like, why do you love Chicago? And he said, oh, I just had to say it. I'm like, all right,
Yep.
that tracks.
Yep. Just gotta let people know you're from here. Everyone from Chicago goes, hell yeah, they're from here.
I love that. I feel like America is like that. Like, every time I've gone on tour there, like, if they come from somewhere, like, they love to rep it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I feel like Australians just love to rep that they're Australian.
Yeah. It's
Like, that's it.
it's one of those things where like you can, you know where the continent or the country is, but like then you're like, we're from this city, and everyone's like, if that's not New York, I don't know where it is in the United States. And I know LA is on the other side, and I know New York's on that side. That's it. Chicago's somewhere in the middle, and they just point to like the big land mass right there, and I'm like, sure, why not?
They're like, this is the only city amongst corn. And it's like,
Yeah.
kind of.
Everybody I know from Europe is just like, Chicago's somewhere in the middle, and I hear it's fine. And you have pizza or whatever. That's
We do
it.
have pizza.
We do.
And that's why we're angry, because everyone only knows us for pizza, which is not like a notable Chicago thing. It just is a thing we have, and we're somewhere in the middle. I'm like, there's so much in the middle. We have to defend ourselves. This is me being too Chicago on the podcast.
Anyway,
I'm so
Brian's
sorry.
going to bring you a I Love Chicago shirt on your Chicago stop on your tour now.
I've actually, for some reason, on every tour we've ever done that has gone through Chicago, we've always had an off day in Chicago. So I've actually been able to, I don't know, I've had time to just experience it and like to walk around, and like it's one of the only cities in that country that like I've caught like a train or public transport on. Like, I don't know why, it's just worked out to be like that, and I've always had a really fun time there. I think that's like a city that like I went to and I was like, whoa, like I think you guys have like that little like river, like
Yep.
We have a little river walk.
and I
Yeah.
remember standing there and like looking at the city and just being very overwhelmed with like how big this city was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't have cities that big here.
Yeah.
And we're even considered a small city
It's
in
true.
comparison to like New York. Like I've been to New York. New York's like vastly
It's
overwhelming.
way too big. The only thing that blew my mind about being in a bigger city was being in like Tokyo and Seoul, and like you like get to a really high building and you look out and you're like, the city doesn't end, and you're like, oh God, I'm from somewhere so tiny. Like my little tiny town of Chicago is like,
It's nothing compared
we are
to
nothing.
this.
So it's all relative, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
All right, we'll get to the next question, and then we can tell you more about Chicago when you're here
No,
again.
no.
Why were the singles "Sour" and "Call My Name" chosen?
Call My Name was chosen because it was the first song that we had for the record that felt like really right and exciting. And I think because we were so excited about that song, we were like, we should just do this one first. Because that was like the first song, I guess, that everyone was like collectively just like, holy shit, like this is, like this is definitely going to be on the album. So I think that because we had that excitement over it, we're like, maybe other people will be excited about it as well. Like, hopefully the feeling translates. And I also think that it was a really good indication that we were going to be changing a little bit. And Sour, we just think is like a really fun song. And we thought that also because it was also pretty different, it was a good follow-up for Call My Name.
Perfect.
Nice.
Yeah. Are there songs on the record that you hope are going to be singles, or that you wish were a single?
Yeah. There is. I like, it's hard because it's kind of like I wish they could all have a moment. Like I love every single song on the record. There's one song that I really fought to be a single. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it, like of like what is and what's not going to be a single, but there's one song that I really fought really hard for and like no one agreed with me. So I'm kind of just like, well, if that song streams really well, then you will all remember that I was right.
Yeah.
So
You can legally call them cowards for not doing it.
I will do that.
There you go.
You get to make that argument next time and be like, well, you remember that one time when you all didn't agree with me and I was very right? So, you know, maybe we listen to me a little bit more.
We listen to me a little bit.
But I think that like at the end of the day, like singles are singles, and like then you have to play those songs. And I think also we have to be really conscious of the songs that we're going to be playing live and how it's going to fit in our set. But I think that like if a song does well, like especially with like TikTok and Instagram and all that these days, like any song can be a single without it being a single.
Yeah. True.
So I'll just make sure that I push that song more than the other ones.
Yep.
Yeah, you'll just have to tell us once we finish, and then we'll just have to like make everybody play it. Be like, guys, play this song instead. Actually,
This one first, yeah.
We'll know
I
when we
love them
see all the TikToks from it.
I love them all. I'm excited for everyone to hear them. I just hope that I hope everyone has like their own little favorite. And I'm excited to hear. Like I'm excited for people to tell me about it when the album comes out, like what song they resonated with and what song they liked and all that. I'm keen.
Perfect. What type of collab would you like to do and with who? So now it's time for a little bit of like the future. Who would you like to work with?
dream collab.
I would love to work like with like a DJ, I think maybe. And like I've really gotten into like drum and bass, which is like you can hear a lot of that like on the record. So I would love to like either have someone like remix like our record and like make it like really cool like EDM or like drum and bass like version of the album. Or like even just lend my voice to something I think would be really cool. Like I've done things like featured in other band songs and like, you know, worked on Bayonetta and stuff, but like it'd be so sick to like sing like on something that wasn't rock, like something that was like a electronic song. But I don't know who, like I can't really like off the top of my head really think about who I'd want that to be with. I'm open to people asking me.
I mean, there's been a lot of acts recently that have been doing like EDM metalcore, and then just also just popular acts like Zed, for example, picked off, you know, Haley Williams to do Stay the Night, things of that nature. And I think a lot of that is coming back, thank God, because it was a pristine time.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
All these
Hopefully, maybe, fingers crossed.
Yeah. All these DJs grew up with the same music, and they're like, well, I like making this music, but I also liked this other genre, and I want to work with those artists too. So there's someone on the other side who's just like, I need to work with yours truly. I need Mikaila on the song. So
Putting it out there in the universe.
yeah.
All right, then we have one last question for you. Can you tell us more about your upcoming tour dates? And also, do you plan to have a headlining tour soon?
Yeah, so we are going to be playing Reading and Leeds in August. We do have a tour that I don't know when this is coming out, but I think that we're going to be doing a headline around that whilst we're over there, just a little one. But I think it would be announced by the time this comes out, maybe. So
Probably,
Most likely, yeah.
And then we've got the States with Shikari and Yumi at 6 in October, November, and then we plan to do Australia after that. But there's I don't really know anything about that yet because it feels so far away. But that's kind of like the goal. I mean, we would love to do a headline in the US, and I think the more that we do these supports and we go over there and we like, you know, meet people come to shows, find out who we are, then it gives us some more confidence about taking the risk of booking our own tour over there.
Yeah.
So that's the plan. I think that I would love to, in the Toxic cycle, do a headline in the States. I feel like it would be like the next move for us.
I heard you say Toxic Cycle, and then I was like, wait, it's the name of the band. You're not having like a toxic.
The Toxic album title.
Yeah, that's the album title.
I'm like,
calm down, Brian.
I'm like, whoa, like I'm trying to come over to the US and have a Toxic Cycle. I'm like, let me tell you, it's pretty easy here.
Yeah, I was about to say, you could do that real easily.
Now that you've said that, I'm gonna be more cautious of how I talk about the toxic album cycle. Um,
That's just
yeah,
me and where
thank you.
my brain goes. I'm like, first of all, we all got to take care of ourselves, and second of all, sometimes it's okay to have a toxic cycle. You know, just a little
Yeah,
bit.
it happens. Happens. That's what the whole album's about. So
Yeah,
Yeah. It's when like Mercury's in retrograde or whatever it is,
yeah.
probably. Yeah.
Well, cool. That's all of our questions. So we'll just go ahead and give an opportunity for you here to tell us where people can find you on the internet, follow the band, follow you personally if you want that too, and where people can buy tickets to the upcoming tour in the U.S. or any of the other stuff. Reading Leeds, I'm sure will be fine without you advertising it because it's a gigantic
yeah,
festival.
Reading and Leeds. Yep.
Yeah.
So we're yours truly. You can find us anywhere on social media, just as yours truly _band. Um, my name's Mikaila Delgado, which is that's my social media handle. And if you want to buy tickets, you can just either find it on our social media or our website is yourstruly.band, and there's ticket links for everything on there. So all of our upcoming shows.
Hell yeah. And the album Toxic comes out on October 16th.
August 16th.
Read that wrong. Literally looked right at it. Couldn't said it any worse. The new album Toxic comes out on August 16th. So stream that, listen to that, learn all the words, see the band on tour, and scream them right back. And that's what you do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
That's what we need. Well, cool. I'm very happy we got this together, and I'm excited to see you guys on the tour when you're here in Chicago in October. We are going to be there. I will be throwing my hands up. I will be screaming. So
Yeah.
you have at least two
We can at
people
least
doing it.
throw down in the pit. I'll just throw Brian in preemptively.
Yeah, we'll be in there.
Amazing. Can't wait. Looking
Yeah.
forward to seeing you guys.
Perfect. Well, yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you then.
Yeah.
Thank you.